We're starting today with a truly heartbreaking story out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Just horrific events where two firefighters were killed, another injured.
Terrible loss.
Absolutely. And at the scene, police found the suspect, 20-year-old Wess Roley, dead. It seems like it was an apparent suicide.
Which immediately adds another layer, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a case just filled with questions. And for you listening, our mission in this deep dive is to, well, try and sift through what we have. We've got news reports, family interviews, even some court documents.
Yeah.
We want to unpack what's known about Wess Roley, but also, crucially, what's still just a perplexing mystery. It's not just the what happened, right? It's exploring the who and the why. That's what makes it so complex.
And that complexity is really key here. This deep dive, hopefully it'll give you some valuable insights into how you navigate information that often seems to conflict.
Right.
And how you understand a profile like this one that really does defy any simple kind of categorization. It's a tough story, no doubt, but it really highlights the complexities, of human behavior and just how hard it can be to truly get what path someone is on.
Okay, so let's maybe start at the beginning. That Sunday in Coeur d'Alene. What do the sources tell us about how this all started?
Well, the police seem to believe Wess Roley intentionally started a brush fire. The reports mention he used a flint fire starter.
Okay, so deliberate ignition.
Seems that way. And then what unfolded next was just devastating. As the first responders got there to deal with the fire, Roley opened fire on them. From a tree, apparently.
From a tree, wow.
Yeah. And this attack, it led to the deaths of 2 firefighters and a third was injured. And the sources, they really emphasize the loss here. These weren't rookies. They had nearly 70 years of combined experience between them.
70 years. That's a massive blow to any community, any department.
Huge.
And then, you mentioned this earlier, but it's so critical. Roley himself was found dead there. Apparent suicide.
Right. And like you said, that just shifts everything. It's not a manhunt anymore. It becomes this effort to understand a life that ended. Ended by causing so much devastation, leaves so many questions about his motivations right up to the end.
And this is where it gets really, really strange. There's this detail from his grandfather, Dale Roley. It introduces this profound paradox.
Okay.
So according to the grandfather, Wess came from a family of arborists, tree guys, right? He was working in tree service himself. And get this, he wanted to be a fireman.
Wait, he wanted to be a firefighter?
That's what his grandfather said. He was doing tree work and he wanted to be a fireman in the forest. And Dale Roley even added, as far as I know, he was actually pursuing it.
Wow. Okay. That is quite the contradiction. How does someone who supposedly wants to join the fire service end up attacking firefighters?
Exactly.
I mean, from an analytical standpoint, that's not just inconsistent. It points to maybe a huge divergence between what someone says or maybe even believes they want and their internal reality, or maybe a very sudden shift.
It's hard to fathom. It suggests such a deep disconnect somewhere.
Yeah. It forces you to look way beyond just the surface level, the stated goals.
And adding to the picture, his grandfather also mentioned Roley owned weapons, a shotgun and a long rifle.
Okay.
Investigators seem pretty confident a shotgun was used in the actual attack, but they haven't ruled out other firearms completely.
Right.
Dale Roley also said, he usually talked to Wess every week, but they hadn't spoken in the last month or so, apparently because Wess lost his phone.
Okay. Communication breakdown there.
Yeah. But the grandfather really stressed Wess wasn't like he was a loner. He said he had loving family and friends. Mentioned that Hawaii trip with his mom last year.
Right. You mentioned that earlier.
And Dale just flat out said he had no reason to suspect that he would be involved in something like this.
So on one hand, you have this picture from the grandfather of, family connections, vacations, seemingly stable, right? But then contrasting that is this really striking detail that Roley seemed to be living out of his vehicle, which they found at the scene. And interestingly, it hadn't been inventoried yet, according to reports. This kind of transient situation. It just adds another complex, maybe unsettling layer. It clashes pretty hard with that image of stability.
It really does. Makes you wonder about the day-to-day reality of his life just before this happened.
Absolutely.
So, okay, that's family. What about people outside the family? Peers, former classmates, what did they see?
Well, we get some different takes here, too. Some former classmates from Arizona described him as a struggling student, said he occasionally lashed out in anger, called him seclusive.
Okay, so struggling, anger issues, withdrawn, that paints one picture.
But then you have another classmate, a third one, offering a pretty different view.
Mm.
Said Wess could be verbally aggressive, yes, but also friendly and fun.
Oh.
Yeah, said he could make them laugh so hard. They played airsoft guns, video games together. But this same classmate added a caveat. It was difficult to play with him. You would take him in doses.
Take him in doses. That's
Yeah.
telling, isn't it? It suggests maybe intensity. Yeah, like maybe he was okay in short bursts, but sustained interaction was tough.
Right. When you put those descriptions together, the seclusive, angry one and the fun but verbally aggressive, hard to take in large doses one, you start to see maybe a really complex, perhaps volatile social dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It highlights how people can show different sides to different people, or maybe their behavior just fluctuates a lot. These are just glimpses, of course, but they suggest, well, challenges in social interactions.
And then there's TJ Franks. He was a former roommate in Sandpoint, Idaho. Met Roley through the tree service work.
Okay, another connection from that industry.
Yeah. They lived together for about 6 months, but Roley moved out in January. And the reason? Apparently, Roley made some threatening gestures at a security camera.
Threatening gestures.
To a camera.
That's what led to a 911 call, according to the reports. And Franks, when he heard the news about the shooting, he told a CNN affiliate he was, quote, freaking out really bad.
He said Roley could have flipped at any time. But, importantly, he also said they never had any conversation that gave any hint of a motive for something like this attack.
No warning signs in conversation?
Yeah.
But clear behavioral issues like the camera incident and the roommate feeling he could flip?
Yeah.
Yeah, more complexity.
Okay, now let's shift to maybe a more difficult part of his background. This comes from court documents.
Right.
We learned his parents divorced. His mother filed back in September 2015. Wess would have been, 10 years old then?
10 years old, yeah. That's a tough age for that.
And the allegations his mother made in those divorce filings, they're really troubling.
Okay.
She stated that her husband, Roley's father, had threatened her, said he'd pushed her down, punched several holes in the walls, and she alleged she'd threatened to sit outside my house with a sniper rifle or burn my house down.
Wow. Those are extremely serious allegations. Threatening with a sniper rifle, burning the house down.
Yeah.
So, legally, what happened with that? Was there follow-up?
Well, the documents show a judge did grant a protective order initially. It covered the mother and Wess.
Okay.
But later, it was amended to remove Wess from it. This happened after his father denied being a danger and claimed the mother did not tell the truth. The divorce itself was finalized in November 2015. Wess's mother was named his primary residential parent.
So, contested situation, clearly. But regardless of the final amendment, those initial allegations paint a picture of a potentially very tumultuous, maybe even frightening home environment during his formative years.
Definitely seems that way. And his stepfather, Tony Cucciara, he put out a statement later expressing just confusion and heartbreak. Said, "We do not understand why this happened or how this came about."
Understandable reaction from the current family.
And kind of echoing that distance, Roley's father told a CNN reporter he wasn't close with Wess, hadn't even seen him since a family gathering last year.
So, a difficult childhood environment, potential estrangement from the father later on. It adds to the background. And you mentioned no criminal history earlier, right?
Right, no actual criminal record.
But it's worth noting, law enforcement in Kootenai County, Idaho, they did have 5 minor interactions with him over time.
Oh, okay. Minor interactions.
Yeah, nothing leading to charges, apparently. But sometimes, in cases like this, you see that pattern, these sort of precursor events, small incidents, signs of maybe distress or behavioral issues that don't rise to criminality. But looking back,
they might form part of a larger picture.
Exactly. It means that no criminal record doesn't always mean no issues or no contact with law enforcement.
That's a really important distinction. Okay, so we've gone through his aspirations, family life, peer interactions, childhood. What does it all add up to?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Despite all these details, these pieces of the puzzle, the sources are really clear. His motive, still completely unknown. No manifesto, no note found, nothing like that.
Yeah. A total lack of clear answers. Especially about why he was even in the Coeur d'Alene area. He had relatives nearby, apparently, but why there? Why then?
Right. Sheriff Bob Norris basically summed it up, didn't he? He said, "We knew that he lived here for the better part of 2024, but as far as when he got here, why he was here, why he chose this place, I don't know."
Leaves you wondering what else was going on in his life, doesn't it? What factors, internal or external, are completely invisible to us right now, but might have been driving things leading up to that day?
So this deep dive, it's really exposed these just profound contradictions around Wes Roley, the aspiring firefighter who attacks firefighters.
Yep.
The guy described as both a loner and angry, but also friendly and fun, just in doses.
Hmm.
Coming from this really tumultuous family background, but somehow no actual criminal record.
Yeah, exactly. We've gathered a lot of information, pulled threads from all these different sources,
Yeah.
and it definitely paints a more complete picture of who he was than we had initially.
Sure.
But we're still fundamentally grappling with the why. We have facts, we have descriptions, we have history, but that core motivation, the thing that tipped him over into doing something so horrific, it's just, it remains elusive.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really difficult question, I think. How do we as a society even begin to process tragedies like this when someone's actions seem so completely disconnected from who they seem to be or who they aspired to be?
Yeah.
How do you come to terms with knowing all this information, digging this deep, and still being left with more questions than answers about what's truly going on inside someone's life, the hidden struggles they might be carrying? It's unsettling.